Welcome to Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. In each show, we share the latest about regulations and things you need to know, plus upcoming conferences and fests, along with interviews with the movers and shakers in this fabulous vape space. Are you looking to get into this ever-expanding marketplace? Do you want to master this industry? Listen up as Norm Bauer, the Vape Mentor, shares it all. And here's your host, Norm Bauer.
Welcome to Vape Radio, show number 65, and if you are new to Vape Radio, thanks for joining us. I'm going to jump right in and let you know that our downloads have been going through the roof. In the first 10 days of November, we've had over 50,000 downloads, so this month will set an all-time high. The new FDA regs and their potential damage cannot be overstated, and we are honored to be bringing you great insight. With that the case, and if you are hearing this in time, be sure to join us for our free webinar on Wednesday, November 18th at 5 p.m. West Coast time, U.S. Attorney Adeem Chideri will be providing the latest up-to-the-minute information, and you must attend if you are a vapor or in the business. To RSVP, go to VapeMentors.com/FDA webinar. That's FDA webinar. It will be recorded, but you should catch it live if you can. And to give you a heads up, our second webinar will be 2 weeks later on the 2nd of December. That one will cover the world of e-cigs, closed tank systems, and C-stores. So if that fits you, be sure to join us. Believe it or not, these regs, they're going to affect everyone that touches any electronic smoking device. And if you've not heard show number 64 with Greg Connolly, you must listen to it along with the one you are about to hear. We have two of the most well-known and significant vape space thought leaders, and they share their interpretation of the new regs. What's interesting is that they each have their own take and with their own concerns. I suggest that you listen to both. If you are a regular listener to Vape Radio, you know that I am not prone to exaggeration or hype, but I can tell you quite honestly, I'm worried. I'm not alone. I've actually written a few articles on this already, and they will be published over the next few months. Meanwhile, Mr. Bauer, that's me, I'm going to Washington, D.C. I'll be testifying at the Office of Management and Budget on December 8th, so if you are in D.C., let me know. I would love all the support that I can gather. Meanwhile, our guest today, Tom Kiklas, is an old-timer in this vape space, and I mean that with all respect. He's been in this fight since 2009 and will share some of that history along with some other tidbits like how the FDA found them, why they sued, and eventually started a legal battle that went to the Supreme Court. Tom covers the top red flags in these new FDA documents. What about the grandfather date? Tom has his opinion, as did our prior show guest, Gregory Connolly. Question: should vape be considered other than tobacco? Tom doubts that will ever happen. Tom was also asked what advice he would give all vapreneurs right now, so listen and learn. You know, we don't always recognize history until it's over. Make no mistake, this is history in the making, and it will not end anytime soon. So, let's dig in, get excited, get angry, get involved, as we listen to the thoughts of Tom Kiklas with the TVECA.
Welcome back to Vape Radio. This is Norm Bauer, your voice of vaping. I am here in Ontario, California at an event called Vape Nights. This is the second year we've had this event. I've been very fortunate to be involved in the educational program, and you know what? One of the awesome people I just ran into is a guy named Tom Kiklas. I've known Tom for a while. He is actually one of the very first persons to start advocating for this industry back in, well, I'm not going to quote the time, but he will, because I don't know whether it was 2007 or 2009, but Tom is actually playing a very pivotal role. Now, for those of you who are in the know, which hopefully is most of you, we now have the deeming regs that are not conjecture, they're not hype, they are actually in the hands of the OMB right now, and Tom held a high-level conference, a telephone call a few days ago. So, Tom, welcome to Vape Radio.
Thank you, Norm. Nice to be here.
So, I don't want to misquote, so tell everyone a little bit about your history in the e-cigarette industry.
Sure. My partners, back in 2007, got this wacky-looking unit, brought it into my office. They were blowing smoke with it. I don't smoke, and was intrigued by it, but didn't know what it was. We took it out into the marketplace and had 28 people walk over and ask what it is. In California, you can't smoke, and so there was a lot of stink eye, but other folks walked over and said, what is that? And we explained to them that it's the ability to get your nicotine through a water vapor and not the harmful tobacco smoke. Their eyes lit up. So we scratched our heads with Enjoy and other companies smoking everywhere, my partner Ray and the TVCA, and we started to promote and sell these products. They came to market, the smoker was embracing them. So we're happily moving along. We did a lot of revenue, and we had a bunch of our reps in. We got them into our conference room, and then one Saturday afternoon, a gentleman came in with a press release saying the FDA had seized products of ours, our co-founder Ray, and that they were illegal drug-device combination. And
not exactly the call you were looking for.
No, the guys that were flying in to meet with us weren't thrilled by that, and they didn't push forward a few days later. But anyway, so what happened, the impetus of that action was to create a litigation with the FDA, and the FDA kind of picked the wrong guy.
So let me jump in there for a moment. So how did you get on the radar of the FDA? Because it's not like some little-known person decided that they were going to tug on Superman's cape. I mean, basically the FDA, which is the 800-pound gorilla, found you and said, we don't like what you're doing. We're giving you probably equivalent of a cease and desist. So how did they find you? I mean, you just created that much of a significance in the marketplace, or were they looking for a fall guy? Were they looking for a target?
No, what would happen is a product was in a mall. We'll call it a race product was in a mall. FDA in Washington, D.C. FDA was in Washington, D.C. They walked across the street. They're going Christmas shopping. They see this kiosk with electronic cigarettes back in 2008. And they were looking at those going, what are they delivering? And the guy said nicotine. And they go, well, that's not a tobacco cigarette. That must be a nicotine delivery device. And they said, no, it's an electronic cigarette. And the FDA said, no, it's a drug device. And that started the impetus. They seized Ray's product. And that was the beginning of Cetera versus FDA. It's a tobacco product because the nicotine that we derive is from leaf and stem of tobacco. So that's a case that we made, that this is a tobacco product because the nicotine is derived from leaf and stem of tobacco. The FDA said, no, this is a drug device combination. You have to go through protocols. We need a check. We need a time frame. We need years to do this. It's off the market. So there was an injunction to keep the product on the market. The litigation went forward. We won the first round. The FDA appealed. In 2010, D.C. Appellate Court said, we agree with Cetera versus FDA. Electronic cigarettes are indeed a tobacco product. They're not a drug device combination.
And that was a pivotal line in the sand right there because they actually said that this is, what it is.
Good point, because that's exactly where we are today. So the FDA said, we will no longer fight. We will take this directive from the appellate court, and we will move forward regulating as a tobacco product. So January 1st, 2011, my partners, every e-cig company that was in the market, okay, so February 2010, we're going to get directives from the FDA as far as how to regulate these products. Then it's June 2010. We're waiting for the FDA to give us directive as far as now it's June 2011, June 2012. So we have been waiting years for this final deeming regulations to come down. So the TVECA was formed in 2008.
TVECA stands for?
The Tobacco Vapor Electronic Cigarette Association.
And the Ray that you refer to is?
What do you mean?
Ray, you keep mentioning.
Oh, Ray Story is my partner.
So people need to know Ray's story because his story is very significant in the industry.
He is. Without his litigation, we would all be doing other things besides providing e-vapor products to Americans. So Ray brought the litigation, was successful, and moving forward with where we are today is that we've been waiting for the FDA to provide to us the final regulations of how they will regulate this product as a tobacco product. If I can step back a little bit, it's kind of this parallel world where in 2008, the Congress and Senate passed the Family Tobacco Control Act, which gave back to the FDA domain to regulate tobacco products. That was in parallel with the litigation that Ray brought forward. And in 2009, that act passed, and the FDA had domain to regulate tobacco products. Ray's litigation fell in the laps of the FDA in 2010, and they go, oh, God, okay, now we have this as well. Okay, and nobody should be surprised that the FDA does what the FDA does. They regulate. Okay, so what they have done is put in processes in place to regulate as if we were a standard tobacco product, not realizing that we are vastly less harmful than a tobacco cigarette. And we have progressive technology, the batteries, the liquids, where Americans are now embracing our technology. But again, a governmental body that regulates is not the entity to shepherd new technology to market. And so we've been waiting for the FDA to put their finding DB regulations out. We've had a peek at them.
So before you get into that, so let's talk about this diversion in the sand, because back in 2009, they deemed, at that time, they didn't call it deeming, but they decided that the vaping industry was in fact a tobacco product. And of course, since then, there's been two different diverting markets, whether is vaping a part of the tobacco product and should it be regulated like tobacco, or is it a non-tobacco product because in many cases there's no tobacco and or no nicotine in it? So basically we have two divisive arguments there, and I've heard both sides over the last several years because some will say one thing and some will say another thing. So let's fast forward to April of 2014. They came out with, at that time, called the Deeming Regs, which was a behemoth of a volume of documents that at that time gave us an indication of the direction that they were going. And that, of course, has been torn apart. And since April of 2014, just like you said before, it's always next month, next month, next month. They kept saying that the new regs were going to be out in June of 2015 and then August of 2015. Well, you know what, guys? This is not a theoretical concept anymore. This is not concept. This is the reality. So the new regs, as of this interview right now, which is in October of 2015, the regs are now in the Office of Management and Budget. So let's go from there because you have insight to some of the things that are in there, and without divulging everything, maybe you can talk about some of the things that are areas of concern, maybe the top concerns, the top red flags that we need to be aware about. Because ladies and gentlemen who are listening right now, this is something you need to get involved with. You cannot be an ostrich putting your head in the sand. You need to get involved, whether you're in the business or whether you're a vapor, as a user. This is something that we all need to engage as a family, as a brotherhood.
Thank you, Norm. And first I'll say that the FDA's task is huge, and I don't envy them at all.
No.
As a regulatory body, they're tasked with taking the tobacco market and then regulating the tobacco market. So these deeming regulations themselves are all encompassing to the tobacco market. There's just two simple points. There's two restrictions that concern us. One is the restriction on only flavors that are tobacco and menthol, to the exclusion of any other flavor, as one. The other, like if you remember the roll your own controversy,
yes,
market itself, any entity that manufactures e-liquid is a tobacco product manufacturer. They no longer are a vape shop providing phenomenal products to anybody to transition to. They're now tobacco product manufacturers. And what that comes with is a whole bevy of cost regulations and a whole lot of licensing you have to go through to become an authorized tobacco product manufacturer.
All right, so let's focus on the first point there. So what you're saying is that if, in fact, they decide you can only have two flavors, one is tobacco and one is menthol, that means you're not going to get any more almonds and cherries and none of those things like that.
Right, to the exclusion of any other flavor besides those two.
So that, for all of you who are saying, why should I care? Why should this bother me? Well, I would probably say that 90+% of you are not smoking tobacco or menthol flavors. You are probably smoking any one of the hundreds or thousands of other flavors out there. So that in and of itself is a huge, huge, huge red flag, a call to action of why you should get involved with this. Because if we are now able to have either A or B, and there are no other letters in the alphabet, guys, that's taking away half the enjoyment and half the incentive for people who say, I don't want to smoke analog cigarettes because, one, I don't want to die of cancer, and two, I enjoy what I vape. And now they're like, well, I still don't want to die of cancer, but you know what? I really don't enjoy a tobacco or menthol flavor.
Perfect.
That's a disincentive.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are 6 million Americans using the products right now. And since their beginning, they've come a long way, baby. There's been a lot of progression in the technology, in the crafting of the e-liquids to make these a very viable product. So again, any governmental body is not the shepherd entity to take new technology and push it forward.
Agreed.
So what I want to talk about, Norm, is what do we plan to do about it?
Well, before you get into that, let's talk about the grandfather date that has been bandied around for several months and years, the February 15, 2007. Is that addressed in the new regs?
It is, and it doesn't change anything at all.
It does not?
It does not.
Okay.
The grandfather date, again, this is my opinion, it's a very arbitrary date that the FDA has placed, saying that new tobacco product, again, as a monolithic government agency, they take all tobacco products to take tobacco cigarettes. And they picked that date of February 27, 2007 as saying any new tobacco cigarette has to look, feel, and taste like this. If there's any changes to it, we have to write a form out and say, is this substantially equivalent to this predicate tobacco product? And I will tell you that the one thing you don't want with new technology is to have it substantially equivalent to any tobacco cigarette. And what we have done is taken technology and made it substantially unequivalent to a predicate 2007 tobacco cigarette. So, again, a governmental agency created this arbitrary date. They're sticking with it. Does the FDA have to stick with it? No. But it's my position, not so much the association's, that even if we take the date and move it forward, we're not solving the problem. Because any date that says at this point in time, nothing new can go forward, stymies innovation.
It totally does.
There's ceramics innovation, there's liquids innovations, there's green battery technology with supercapacitors, a lot of things we're working on in the industry that if you have a date saying, okay, now, no more new technology, I don't want to wait 2 more years.
Great. So let's go back to the new regs that just got passed on to the OMB. So what else is a red flag that people should know about?
There are many, but I would stick with those two right now because those two shut down 90% of the industry itself.
Wow.
A lot of it has to do with internal regulations and forms you fill out and processes you fill out. Again, what a governmental body who's tasked to regulate does with that. They are not in a position to take our technology and our industry with all the fine folks that are here and say, great work you're doing. Now, the association is for responsible regulation.
Agreed. I think everyone agrees with that, Tom. And we all want regulations. We don't want restrictions. We want to create a level playing field so that everyone does things professionally because this industry started, you started long before me. I call it a wild, wild west. Back when you started, it was a wild, 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 wild west. And so it's becoming a little bit more civilized, but, and so we're all in favor of having some type of uniform rules and playing field, but not anything that kind of stifles the industry.
Absolutely. And that's when I do in City, New York. I lobbied with them. We've lobbied everywhere, and we have been very successful. There hasn't been put a ban in place yet. Every litigation that we, the association, have brought forward has been successful. We lobbied in the EU. The EU in 2013 was going the same route as America, the United States, which is these are drug device combinations. We spent a year lobbying and a whole lot of money creating our tobacco directive, stating that nicotine is not a drug. It's not therapeutic. It does not treat or cure any disease. And the EU is 28 separate little countries, and we had to do a lot of lobbying with those 28 countries to have that passed. The EU is way ahead of this directive.
Now, let me jump on that, because I've heard talk that what they have done over there with their directive is actually a good template for us to follow here. But what we're seeing here, does it look anything like that? It does not.
It does not. It's stifling.
So the FDA should actually look to that and say, you know what, they've got some good, valid points over there.
Yeah, and I want to address one thing. We were kind of criticized in 2014 when it did pass, because they did put a restriction on nicotine at 2.0 or 20 mil on that. And again, if you've ever negotiated with anybody, there is a give and take.
Of course.
So with our standards right now, 36 mil at 3.6, as we sat with liquid scientists years ago, and that's where they claimed that the upper threshold should be is 36 mil at 3.6. So we lobbied for that, but we were kind of crushed on the blogs by people saying that you guys mitigated this industry by falling on the swords for liquid levels. And no, we had to negotiate. But the EU is way ahead of this directive.
All right, so let me ask you, if you're limited to such a low level, is that going to give any type of satisfaction to the people who truly are looking to wean themselves off of analog cigarettes?
We are still in conference with the EU. It's a living document. But again, they would be banned. The world's got to understand there's only two places where e-vapor is legal, the United States and the EU. There's only two places that we litigated, the United States and the EU. Not available in Australia, not available in South America, not available in Hong Kong, not available in Russia. Only two places right now. Now, I think governmental bodies will realize at some point in time these e-vapor products have tremendous efficacy for our citizens, and we cannot any longer have tobacco cigarettes and their costs laden upon our populations. But again, there's a lot of lobbying done by a whole lot of people bigger than us. I do want to address one thing, is that there's a lot of conversation about taking e-vapor products out of the tobacco category and creating this new space. That will never happen.
Even Zeller said he thought that the time was right for something like that.
Not going to happen. As powerful as Mitch Zeller is, there are two other more powerful lobbies. That's pharma and tobacco. And we have no association with them at all. But pharma, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, they hold the domain to nicotine. They spend millions of dollars in getting their nicotine replacement therapies, the gum, patches, Chantix, legal in the market itself. And Lorillard, Altria, R.J. Reynolds will never give up control of nicotine.
So this is really driven by money, just like so many other things in this world.
It's driven by the ability to lobby people and make the case that we are best keeping. Again, this is not the association saying we are a tobacco product and we side with big tobacco. This is the reality. When you look at how the world actually works, the FDA was given the domain to regulate nicotine and tobacco, and they're doing that. And it's not going to leave that category. It's not going to leave Altria and Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer and go in some cushy category that I believe they should be in. It should be in other tobacco product. That's a category that's going to, but it ain't going to be there for a long time, because to get there, you have to lobby. and you got to spend a whole lot of time and money to lobby individual congressmen and senators. And for every dollar that we spend, those guys got 1,000 times that with a lot of history behind them. So what we have to do today to keep these products available is I'll talk to you more, Norm, in a week's time about the TVCA's plan. We just got these a week ago, and we want to be out front of this now and not be reactive. So we want to be assertive to what our plan is. And so I'll reach out to you in a week's time and give you what our actual plan is to go forward, because just announcing an issue without a solution is just crying wolf. So we will have a plan in place fairly soon.
All right, so this is Norm Bauer with Vape Radio, and we're here talking to Tom Kiklas with the TVECA. So again, these regs just hit the street literally less than a week ago. So there's still a lot of speculation. And you said how many pages were in this document?
Hundreds.
It's kind of like if he tells me he's going to have to kill me, but let's just say that there's multiple hundreds of pages. So it's a very unwieldy document. And so what he's saying is true. There's a lot of vaguenesses in there. There's a lot of clarity in there. And so the reality of it is that this is a story that is unfolding, ladies and gentlemen. And I cannot stress upon you enough that you have to get involved. So I'm going to ask you a personal opinion, Tom. And this is not on behalf of your organization, but you as someone who's been in the industry, who I hold high esteem for because you've been around for a while. For anyone out there who is a vapepreneur, which is a term that I coined, which is a vaping entrepreneur, who is either in the business, either as a brick and mortar, or as an e-liquid company, or as a distributor, or anything else like that, if you were in their shoes, what would you do to kind of give yourself some degree of assurance that you have a livelihood for the years to come?
I'd reach out to two associations right now. One is CASA. Julie Woosner and CASA done tremendous work with the consumer advocacy side. And they have the ear a lot of people, and I would go to their organization and their website, and then I'd keep your eyes on our website. It's tveca.com, and we will have updates the next week as far as what we're planning on doing, because we need a coalition. This is not just an e-vapor constriction. These guidelines are for the whole tobacco market. The FDA is not just with these directives pointing to e-vapor and saying A, B, C, and D. They're looking at flavored cigars, flavored pipe tobacco. This is an omnibus bill for all of the tobacco industry. So if you're out there enjoying flavored Swisher Sweets products, well, there are issues. There are a lot of other issues for other tobacco companies besides just the e-vapor market itself.
Excellent. And so should someone want to contact you or someone from your organization, what is the best thing for them to do?
Email me at tom@tveca.com, and I will reach out and answer any questions that they may have.
So again, just to kind of put a button on this, so to speak, so here we are at Vape Nights. This is an event that's going on right now live, and Tom happened to be here. I got him in the room, and I said, we need to talk about what's going on because this is true breaking news. And so this is something that is unfolding before our very eyes. If you look back at history, a lot of times you can't recognize history until after it's over, but this is history in the making right now as we speak. So again, for those of you who are new to Vape Radio, welcome. For those of you who are experienced, we've got 60-plus shows in the hopper. We ask that you share this information with anyone and everyone who you think has a vested interest in the future of the vaping industry. And Tom, on behalf of myself and VapeMentors and the Vape Radio, we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Noam. Great for the forum.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not go away. We're going to be back in just one moment.
Well, everyone, what do you think? Are you worried? Are we worried? Do we sound paranoid? You be the judge as we talk about and we think about just how worried is enough. To everyone listening, please do your part. Get involved to whatever degree that you possibly can. And before we leave radio show number 65, I want to invite you all to be a sponsor of Vape Radio. This is the largest vaping radio show in the world. So big that we are having a contest to guess the date of our 1 millionth download. You can go to the website and you can see how many downloads we have right now. But unless things change, we're going to be hitting that date before the end of the year. Send a note to norm@vapementors.com with the subject line saying 1 million. You tell us the date, and if we have more than one possible date winner, we're just going to go ahead and pick the winner amongst them. We're gathering goodies as we speak, along with bling to give away to the person that guesses the exact date. This show, once again, is sponsored by the Council of Vapor, so we suggest that you get a hold of the Council of Vapor if you are interested in looking to manufacture your own piece of hardware. Thank you so much for listening to show number 65. We're going to be back with show number 66 shortly.